To understand the man who faced lions without trembling, we must first understand the fire that forged him. We are in the year 605 BC. The world is in flames. The Babylonian Empire, led by the young and relentless Nebuchadnezzar, marched against Judah. Jerusalem, the holy city, saw its walls fall and its temple plundered. Among the thousands of captives dragged miles across the desert was a young man of royal lineage named Daniel. He was not a sword-wielding soldier, but a master of the mind. He was torn from his home, had his name changed to Belteshazzar, and was forced to serve in the palace of his own oppressors. Imagine the shock, leaving the austerity of Israel to enter the most luxurious and sinful metropolis of antiquity. Babylon was a labyrinth of gold, hanging gardens, and stone gods that demanded blood. Daniel survived. He saw Nebuchadnezzar go mad. He saw the Babylonian Empire fall in a single night of drunkenness under King Belshazzar. And now he's an old man. The world has changed. The gold of Babylon has been replaced by the silver of the Medes and Persians. Daniel is 80 years old. He's a survivor, a living monument to integrity. And it is here, at the height of his career and in the twilight of his life, that his greatest battle begins. The new master of the world is Darius the Mede. He inherited a vast and ungovernable empire. To bring order to chaos, Darius chose 120 satraps to govern the provinces, and over them 3 governors. Daniel was one of them. But Daniel was not like the others. While the Persian Empire was driven by bribes, corruption, and power games, Daniel operated under an excellent spirit. He was the perfect clock in a broken mechanism. Darius noticed this. The king planned to place him as the second most powerful man on earth, above all Persian nobles. The news ran through the palace corridors like poison. 120 satraps and 2 powerful governors tasted the bitter flavor of envy. They were natives, warriors of Persian lineage. Daniel was a foreigner, a Jew, a slave who had risen too high. "We must bring him down," they whispered. But there was a problem. Daniel's life was an open book. They searched his finances, his judgments, his alliances. Nothing. There was no scandal, no diverted coin, no lie. Daniel was dangerously honest.
Daniel's enemies understood that the prophet's only weakness was actually his greatest strength, his unconditional loyalty to the God of Israel. They knew he would never break the laws of his God by order of any man. So they decided to use King Darius's greatest weakness, vanity. They appeared before the king with a seductive proposal. "O King Darius, live forever. All the leaders agree that to unify this diverse kingdom, we must establish a royal decree. For 30 days, no one may make petition to any god or any man except you, O king. Whoever disobeys shall be thrown into the lion's den." The plan was diabolical. Darius, flattered by the idea of being treated as the sole mediator between the divine and the human for a month, did not perceive the conspiracy. He took his signet ring and pressed it into the hot wax. In the law of the Medes and Persians, once a decree is signed by the king, it becomes irrevocable. Not even the king himself can change it. Daniel's fate was sealed before he even knew of the meeting.
Daniel learned that the document had been signed. He was not naive. He knew exactly what that meant. He did not seek the king to beg for his life, nor did he try to hide his faith in the basement of his house. He walked to his residence. He went up to the upper room. There the windows opened toward Jerusalem, the city of his fathers, now in ruins, yet still the center of his hope. 3 times a day Daniel knelt. He prayed and gave thanks. Imagine the scene. Spies hidden in the gardens among the olive trees, watching with cruel smiles. They saw the old man kneel. They heard his voice rising in prayer to the invisible God. Daniel knew they were there. Every word of his prayer was a challenge to the most powerful empire on earth. He was not merely praying, he was choosing his side in eternity. The decree said 30 days, but Daniel serves a God who rules centuries. The conspirators wasted no time. They burst into Daniel's house, witnessing the crime on his knees. With triumph shining in their eyes, they ran to the palace. "O king, did you not sign an edict forbidding prayers to any god except you?" they asked with false concern. The king confirmed, "The thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be revoked." Then they struck. "Daniel, one of the captives from Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, nor to the decree. 3 times a day he makes his petition." Darius felt the blood drain from his face. Instantly he realized he had been used. Daniel was his best friend, his most loyal counselor. The king spent the entire day trying to find a legal hole, a technical escape, anything that could save Daniel from the death sentence. But the satraps were relentless. They surrounded the king at sunset. "Remember, O king, it is law that no decree the king establishes can be changed." The law Darius had used to exalt his vanity now forced him to kill the only man he truly loved.
The order was given. Persian soldiers in their scale armor of bronze seized the old man. Daniel was taken to the mouth of an underground structure. The smell of rotting meat and the sound of claws scraping stone rose from the abyss. Down below, starving lions waited. Lions deliberately kept hungry so the execution would be swift and terrifying. King Darius, eyes wet, approached Daniel and whispered words he himself did not know whether he believed. "Your God, whom you continually serve, he will deliver you." Daniel was thrown into the pit. A huge stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. The king pressed his ring into the wax upon the stone, sealing the entrance. The silence of the night was broken by the roar of the beasts below. Daniel was alone, without weapons, without youth, only he and the predators in absolute darkness.
While Daniel was in the den, Darius's palace became a prison. The king refused food, refused concubines, refused musical instruments. Sleep fled from him like a frightened bird. Darius paced back and forth. He, the Lord of the world, felt like the smallest of creatures. He realized human power is an illusion before death and the integrity of a righteous man. He spent the night imagining the lions tearing Daniel apart, blood on the stones, the end of his friend. It was the longest night in Persia's history. Meanwhile, in the den, time seemed to stand still. Daniel was not screaming, he was not fighting. There was a peace in that place the palace did not know. What happened inside the den defies biological logic. The biblical text says that God sent his angel. Imagine a figure of celestial light descending into that fetid abyss. The angel did not kill the lions, he simply shut their mouths. The beasts, which should have attacked, became like domesticated animals. The roaring gave way to silence. Daniel, the 80-year-old governor, may have rested his head on a lion's mane while the angel stood guard. That night, the lion's den was the safest place in the world because the presence of God was there. Daniel proved that when a man kneels before God, he can stand before any lion. At daybreak, even before the sun illuminated the towers of Babylon, King Darius ran to the den. He was desperate. With a trembling and anxious voice, he cried out toward the opening, "Daniel, servant of the living God, Has your God, whom you continually serve, been able to deliver you from the lions?" There was a second of torturous silence, and then, coming from the depths of the earth, a calm and firm voice replied, "O King, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they did not hurt me." Darius exploded with joy. He ordered that Daniel be taken out of the den immediately. When Daniel came out into the sunlight, the entire empire stopped. They examined his body. There was not a scratch, not a sign of tooth or claw. The text is emphatic. No harm was found on him because he had trusted in his God.
Darius's joy quickly turned into severe and terrible justice. He did not forget the men who had manipulated him. He ordered that Daniel's accusers, together with their families, be thrown into the same den. This time, there was no angel. The text reports that the lions tore them apart before they even reached the bottom. The trap they created for Daniel became the tomb of their own lineages. Envy consumes the one who carries it.
Then Darius wrote a new edict, but this time it was not to exalt himself. He sent messengers to all peoples, nations, and languages. The decree said that throughout all the dominion of my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he endures forever. Daniel, the slave, who began in the ashes of Jerusalem, ended by changing the law of the greatest superpower in the world. He continued to prosper in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian.
The story of Daniel and the lions is not about a man who was lucky. It is about a man who decided that his connection to the eternal was more important than his physical survival. Daniel teaches us that character is built in secret before the crisis arrives. He did not learn to pray in the den. He went to the den because he already knew how to pray. Centuries later, the stones of Babylon returned to dust. But Daniel's example remains. It reminds us that in the darkest moments of life, when the lions of injustice, disease, or fear roar around us, there exists a peace that shuts mouths and a light that never goes out.